All right, it's Joey McDermott. I got Omar Sanchez with me, and this is SPF 50. 50 words in the city of Chicago. It's the sports, the people, politics, and the food of Chicago that we are going to talk about today. So let's get into our first topic, Omar.
Yeah.
And the question is, Mayor Brandon Johnson has said that he is going to prioritize neighborhood schools and get rid of the existing status quo that favors certain groups over the other. He's going to try to do away with this whole competitive enrollment process for the selective enrollment process. And you got some people in the city who are saying he's getting rid of selective enrollment schools.
So
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, because this is what we're hearing, and when I say we, people from the news, and I believe, based off of the words that Brandon Johnson has said, that he's going to dismantle the 11 selective enrollment high schools that are in the city of Chicago, and 3 of them are like the top performing high schools in the entire nation, in the top 100. 2 are in the top, one's in the top 10. So, as a parent that's about to have a high schooler, my daughter's in 6th grade. She just took the test to try to get into what was it called?
When young?
Just to get into a better high school.
Enrollment.
The selective enrollment. So she took the test. This was just this past weekend, ironically, and we actually paid to get her into to practice for this test. I'm trying to get her into.
You had her tutor for a test?
I had her tutor for a test.
And what grade is she in?
She's in 7th grade. I'm sorry, she's in 7th grade. So she's trying to get. We're trying to pretty much see how she does, so that if she doesn't do too well, we know what to work on to try to get into a better high school. I think every parent wants their child to go into a good high school.
Was she excited about doing this tutoring?
Of course not, because she was doing the tutoring throughout December, leading up to the holidays, and she doesn't want to be doing that. But we forced it upon her. But at the same time, as parents, that's what we do. We know what's best for them. We let her do what she wants. She'll be on TikTok all day, and that's the one thing we're trying to get rid of.
So you think the Board of Education should continue to support these 3 schools that are in the top 10 of the state?
Well,
even though it's argued that it's done at the expense of neighborhood schools like Steinmetz.
And it's interesting because yes, there's neighborhood schools that definitely need help, and I think personally that they're getting enough help financially. I think they're not getting enough help from the community, from the home. I think that's where it really truly starts. So I'm against it if that's what it's going to be based on what I heard.
Now let me say this: there's nobody that said get rid of selective enrollment schools.
Okay.
You got a lot of excited, I'm going to say it from my own people. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of very excited white people who are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to go to private school. I can't send I won't feel safe.
Yeah. That's how they're painting it.
But now you're see, and we talked about this with sports.
Yeah.
You like that the Warriors were 82-0 and were killing everybody.
Yeah.
And you had shitty ass teams that were going 5-75.
Right. I think it forces everyone else to step up. That's how I look at it. I like competition.
Survival of the fittest, competition.
I like competition. There's winners and losers and everything.
All right.
Yeah.
Social Darwinism.
There you go. This is going to be fun, folks. You watch. This is going to be fun. So let's get into the next topic. What we want to talk about is the migrant issue, right? So the question I have for the migrant issue is kind of more localized versus the entire thing. So is the city failing the migrants, or is the city failing its own citizens? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the city did nothing to attract the 15,000 people, approximately, most of them coming from Venezuela. And what I say first and foremost is we have an asylum program in the United States. I mean, we did it when it benefited the Cubans in Florida. Mm-hmm. We took in hundreds of thousands of people seeking asylum. So these people are all here legally. They have done nothing illegal. These are not undocumented immigrants. Mm-hmm. They're documented because they're seeking asylum. The problem is it takes 6 months to a year for you to go through the asylum process. In the meantime, what are you supposed to do? So that's, to me, the heart of the problem is if we're going to have an asylum program, you got to pay for people or give them a way to work while they're waiting their trial. So that's where I think the problem is. I think it's a brilliant move by the governor of Texas because what you've done is they've pitted poorer communities against immigrants.
Right. Yeah.
And it kills me.
I can
It
see
kills
that.
me to see you seen the migrants over on Harlem and North Avenue
I see them. I see them everywhere.
selling gum.
Gum. There's. I mean, and they come to hustle and they want to work. The vast majority of them. Here's a few things that I know off of the migrant issue. There are since Biden took over, in essence, the level of entry has tripled from previous years, and because he took away a couple of two big things, which was the Title 45 or 49, which was the remain in Mexico while they waited for their asylum. That means now they pretty much bring them in, as you say, you process them and they give them papers so that they can work and they can do all that good stuff. I think, and the question, because that's a far-reaching topic, for Chicago's sake, the problem that I see, regardless of the people who are there, the people who have been here are being ignored when you've been told for decades and generations that there's no money for that, there's no money for this, and then poof, magically, there's money.
Now you went to Amundsen Park.
Yes, so I went to Amundsen Park because I wanted
right here in the Galewood community,
close to home,
Austin and Bloomingdale.
Yeah, and the Amundsen neighborhood is a very tight knit neighborhood. 60% of it is senior citizens, and they were fighting because of what they were going to do. They have a great park. Amundsen Park itself is the anchor of the entire neighborhood. So all the children, all the people who are our age grew up in those programs, and they ended those programs. They have yet to restart them, but they ended the program because they were going to house them there. And this is a neighborhood that was historically ignored, historically disenfranchised, and to get smacked in the face by Brandon Johnson, that was elected by the neighborhood. It's a slap in the face.
So let's just say it's a predominantly black neighborhood. He got large black support.
Yeah.
And this issue has driven a wedge in his base.
And his base, big time.
All
big
right.
time.
So we didn't get a solution to that one.
Yeah.
But, all right.
We'll come back to that one.
Next question. This is like just a general social media question. The other day, I'm talking to my kids and family, and I'm talking about this guy I know. His name's Graham Hill. He's a friend of mine from my previous job. The next thing I know, I open up my Facebook, and the first post I see is from Graham Hill.
Look at that.
And I got over 1,000 friends.
Yeah.
So to me, it's statistically very improbable that that's happened. And I don't want to be like
so what are you saying?
Theorist
what are you
that
saying?
They're tracking you and the government this. And,
Big brothers.
Because I don't really think I'm that important.
Yeah.
But, I know you've had some experience.
Well, I think whenever you, and this happens when I'm sitting on the couch with my wife and we're talking about a vacation spot. Next thing you know, you open it up and there's a Southwest airline ad, or there's a come to the Bahamas ad, so on and so forth.
Yes.
It's absolutely listening. When we click agree, we don't know what we're giving away permission to. And honestly, I've even read, like with TikTok, they're able to share your information with the Chinese government. If we're gonna go with that, So there was a push federally, no federal employee. This was a push from the federal government that no federal employee should have TikTok on any federal device.
Yeah, I heard that.
So there's some credence to that whole conspiracy theory. But
all right, so since you brought up the Chinese invasion, I'm gonna share with you what I learned. This is off the little subject, but when I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, I'm getting a sub at Jersey Mike's.
Yeah.
And this guy says something like, "You're a Democrat, aren't you? You like Biden?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I voted for Biden." He goes, "Biden wants to take all our guns."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, and if that's true, what is it that bothers you?" And he said, "When the Chinese come, we're gonna be ready for them."
Yeah.
I'm like, the Chinese are not gonna start their invasion in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Yeah.
But there is this fear that the Chinese. I mean, do you share any of this fear?
So once again, migrant issue. And CNN, I saw this morning as I was working out. Yeah, I work out, considering what you're saying. I was working out this morning, and it was on mute, but he has the subtitles, and they actually highlighted the fact that a wave of Chinese immigrants were coming in. And there's a couple things that happened recently. Governor Pritzker of Illinois, I believe whether he proposed a law or made it into law that newly newcomers, immigrants, can become law enforcement, right? That they should be able to become law enforcement agents. So now think about it like this: if that's the case, and the proverbial, can we swear?
Yeah.
Shit hits the fan. What makes you think that an immigrant will hesitate to turn a gun on an American citizen? Whereas an American citizen won't turn the gun on an American citizen if they know that what the American citizen is fighting for is against a tyrannical government, if that kind of makes sense. So you got to look at it like that. I know it's conspiracy, man, but I'm full of them. You know, just make sure you subscribe.
And if the Chinese are trying to
infiltrate
law enforcement
they can,
to subvert the United States.
They can attack from within major infrastructures, from electricity to gas to planting bombs in malls and high traffic areas.
What about like sort of a low budget tourist place for American families?
Like what?
Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
There you go. They'll avoid it.
All
right, next topic. What's the next topic we have here, man? So we have a couple of influencers that we've been following and we've been talking
local
about.
Guys.
Local guys here. Well, actually, one's local and one is a transplant from New York. And they're food influencers. And recently, they've been gaining a lot of traction and doing a lot of spots around the area. And there's a beef. There's like an unspoken beef. And if you follow both of them, you kind of know that they're jabbing at one another, right? So what do you think about the latest beef between Foxito and Crystal Leeds?
All right, so Foxito is the transplant.
He's a transplant from Brooklyn, New York, I believe. Yeah.
He's from like Washington Heights.
There you go. Okay.
And Foxito is very sort of like New York, Puerto Rican hip hop.
Yeah, for
right?
sure he is.
And he keeps it real.
He does. I mean, it feels genuine whenever he gives one of his reviews.
Chris Dolo, how would you describe Chris Dolo?
I think he's more of a happy-go-lucky dude. No offense, he's definitely smokes weed. So he's
they both do.
They do. But I grew up around a bunch of people who have smoked weed, and you could tell a stoner from a weed smoker.
Okay.
There's a big difference, right? And I think he's more on the stoner end, which is all the power to him, because some of my best friends are stoners, man. I love them to death, and they have great insight.
If some of your best friends are something, you can't be prejudiced against.
Yeah, I can't be. I used to smoke. I gave it up, man. Now I'm 45-year-old dad. Stop it. I ain't got time for that. But they had what was the most recent one that they just had?
So, legendary Chicago spot,
Borinquen, yeah.
Proclaimed the inventor, the originator of the Jibarito sandwich maybe 40, 50 years ago. This is a sandwich, made out of plantains, the tostone.
Yeah, the tostone. So there's the basically what should be breading of a sandwich is made out of tostones. They smash it from the plantain, they fry it, and then they put in the meat, whether it's typically you want steak, but they'll do a steak, shrimp, chicken, you name it, and it's fire. It is fire. It's a heart attack, but it is fire.
And the original Borinquen is no longer exists. It's maybe the originator's daughter.
Right.
Foxito went in there and trashed it,
bashed it.
And Foxito does that.
Yeah.
Chris Dolo kind of called him out and was like, "We don't do that.
Yeah.
We have influence. These people are
they're everyday people. Yeah, they're working like they this is how they feed their family."
And what does Foxito say about Chris Dolo?
Well, I don't know if he addressed that one or I haven't seen it, but I could tell you right now, he's always calling him, not directly, indirectly, calling him a lame.
A send-off.
A send-off. A big-time send-off, because he's... And I get it. If you're going to tell everybody, this is great, this is great, this is great, and then you go in there, this wasn't great. You wasted my time. I'm a man where my time is very important. I think the older you get, time is of the essence. I don't want to go to a place. People get hangry, man, especially you walk in there and it's grab. You're like, oh, man, this dude, what a send-off.
So we're both on Foxito's side on this one. Right?
I believe so on this one. I believe so. But real quick, before we go to the next subject, Chris did do a video because someone emailed him talking about how shameful it was that that Foxito had bashed him, And he basically said, you shouldn't do that, so on and so forth. In the comments section, Borinquen, the actual owner of Borinquen, he or she, I'm not sure, they commented on it, and they said that, yeah, they remained quiet because they wanted to take the high road and not give credence to Foxito. But they're trying to say that the person who was filming that for Foxito is somehow related, and there's some drama, and there's beef there. So she kind of sent him to go, hit him in the gut with something. Who knows, man? Who knows? But it always goes down in the comment sections, right? Besides the DMs,
it's a deep hole you go into.
You go into those comments.
Before we go to our next section, sure. I do want to comment on something you just said. You were referring to the owners or the owner, and you started with he, then you went to she, and then you went to they.
Yeah.
Is they what you're supposed to say? Like if you don't know the gender?
It's funny you say that, right? Because I could care less about all of that, but I do it in fun, in jest,
you.
And you know what? You know what? If you told me your pronouns were so on and so forth, I'll just look at you like, okay, what's your name? And I'll be calling you by your name the rest of the night.
That's how I'm calling you.
That's it. Simple as that. But yeah, it's funny. Maybe that's a whole nother topic for another day.
My pronoun is kiss my ass. I don't know what meme that came from. I'm sorry. It's like Ted Cruz.
Oh, I've seen those, man. I've seen those.
So next, we're going to bring up our guest.
Yeah.
Our guest. Come on up, Bobby.
Come on, Bobby.
This is...
I kept the seat over here nice and warm for you.
Bobby Favorito, a.k.a. Bobby Falcon.
Bobby Falcon, Bobby Digital.
What up, fellas? All right. So Bobby, Omar and I both know Bobby from Final Cuts Barbershop.
That's right.
Shout out Final Cuts on Fullerton and
Mead
Street, right by Reese Park. Bobby is my barber for 14, 15 years now. And, sometimes my 30-minute haircut becomes 45 minutes. Because I'm getting advice from Bobby, or Bobby is opening up and telling me what he's going through for that week.
Yeah,
so
we're doing what we're doing here, man. Sharing our thoughts,
That's it. All right, so Bobby, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your Chicago origins? Where you from?
I grew up on the north side of the city, like Ravenswood area, up by near Amundsen, Foster and Damon area.
Went to Amundsen High School?
Yeah, went to Amundsen, went to Gordon when it was all boys.
Okay. So you were what was the motto of Gordon Tech at that time?
Man, I wish I could tell you. It's so far back,
This is a stoner friend of mine, guys.
That's why he doesn't remember. No, it was something about, like they said something about don't drop the soap. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
I mean, this is the kind of like childish. Do you remember what?
Although I think Gordon did have a slogan, though. What
did we call Good Counsel? Do you remember this?
No, I don't remember.
There was my sister went there. Yeah, he's right. He's not.
Kennel.
Yeah, you're right.
That's terrible. An all-girls school gets called the Kennel.
Yep.
And you went to Gordon and Amundsen, come from the north side.
split 2 years.
How'd you get into barbering at Final Cuts on Fullerton?
After I went to community college, I went to Wright. Didn't really dig the whole going to school thing. Wanted to work with my hands. My pops grew up working with his hands his whole life, being a journeyman and a mechanic. And so I found a cosmetology school up in Niles and met this awesome gentleman right here, which changed my life. He's one of the most influential people in my life in the last 20 some odd years.
So what's something you learned from Omar that you can say, is necessary to be good in business, good as a barber?
Oh man, that list is long. There's a laundry list of that. There's barbers now that I see that they use quotes that Omar used to use 15, 20 years ago.
Is it about cutting hair though?
Yeah, I mean it's about cutting hair. It's about the business. It's about how relationships, how to handle yourself, how to deal with people, how to get money, all of it, a little bit of all of it.
And what about relationships?
Well, I've always told Bobby, and I've told a lot of other barbers that are up and coming, that believe it or not, your haircut's going to eventually become secondary to the whole experience that you bring to the table, and Absolutely. It's all about the experience. What Bobby is fantastic. And Bobby's heard me say this, so I'll say this, and Bobby's not the best haircutter in the world.
No, I won't
Not
say
not by
that.
leaps and bounds. Like
No.
in at the time when I owned the barbershop, there were at least 4 or 5 dudes that could easily blow away his haircut.
Absolutely.
But nobody, and I mean nobody, made as much money as Bobby did because Bobby was a businessman and he understood that being on time, being on top of things, even though like you said 40-minute haircuts, he would still be able to know when he could make that up, right? And then understanding that the person, the client, not a customer, the client in his chair, knowing their history and building a bond with them,
Building a relationship with
building
your
a
client.
relationship is what would keep them coming back. Because with Bobby, you need to book out in advance. And any good hairstylist, barber, colorist, in anyone or in anything, when it's a service industry, if they're booked out, if they're good, you got to get at them early because that's what it's going to be.
And Bobby, you know you got to take care of your longtime clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Always do.
Yeah.
Always do.
Bobby.
All right, so I got a couple of questions for you that you have indicated that you have an interest in sharing. These are just basic questions about sports, politics, food, the
Yes.
people. You got an opinion on ketchup on hot dogs. Of course, in Chicago, we frown upon ketchup on hot dogs, but truth be told, you know, for my kids, I'll have a ketchup on my hot dog.
I'm same thing. I'm a mustard guy. Like my choice toppings for either a Polish or a hot dog is mustard, onions, and pickles, or sport peppers as well instead of pickles.
Okay.
But my daughter, as your kids, my youngest daughter loves ketchup.
Right.
I mean, she'll get ketchup on top and then get it on the side and still dip it in it.
So you got a spot?
For hot dogs?
Yeah.
Man, I mean, everybody always likes Jimmy's. Jimmy's is good. You can't go wrong there. Super
Jimmy's
Dogs.
on Grand and Pulaski.
Grand and Pulaski, Super Dogs, Milwaukee, and
there
Dane, Devon.
Is there anything else that you can buy at Jimmy's? I mean, back in the day, there always was like a little.
They still have the Polish.
Yeah, I would say the Polish. I'd either get the Polish or
sell
hot
like
dog.
DVDs and stuff there too.
What?
I always,
DVDs?
whenever I would go to Jimmy's, there'll be
That
DVDs.
happens at barbershops,
Yeah,
yo.
but a lot of
The
times it was
barbershop
like
thing.
pornography or just dirty stuff. But
The
yeah,
guys hanging outside. It's cleaned
Selling
up a bit.
stuff.
It's
I haven't
cleaned
been there
up.
in years.
okay.
Be prepared to get asked for money.
But I mean, that question is more about the opposite. I'm not for it. You know, it's kind of like with Gene and Jude's, which is not far from here, a little west of here. You can't get ketchup in that spot
No.
for nothing. You got to go to the gas station across the like next to it.
There's a
to get it.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
And they'll charge you.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so Gene and Juice and Jimmy's. Ginny and Juice on Grand and River Road, and what's the suburb there?
That is
River
that's
Grove?
River Grove.
River Grove,
Okay.
yeah.
Or Franklin Park, one of the two.
Our next
like
question
borderline.
is, in the illustrious history of the Chicago Bears, I think a lot of people, it's hard to say, like, who's the greatest quarterback? Jordan Love just got 4,000 yards in his first year starting for the Green Bay Packers. We've never had a quarterback throw for
When you put it in perspective
Jordan
like
Love,
that.
fuck the Packers, but who do you say the best Bears quarterback of all time?
I mean, once again, like Omar and you were in our 40s. I mean, the first guy will always come to mind because he bring us a championship is Jim McMahon.
Right.
Always is. No matter, and it's not about the stats. It's the heart. It's the way he played, his attitude. He was kind of what the
his
Chicago
attitude?
Bears were. I mean,
What was his
we're
attitude?
the funky QB.
Funky QB.
I mean, but he had no problem stepping up to a defensive lineman, addressing a Lawrence Taylor or Reggie White, and that's a leadership that you can't teach.
Right.
So aside from stats, which as me and Omar talk sports a lot, and you too, Joe. I mean, I don't think stats are everything,
Nope.
and that's why I think.
So statistically, Jim McMahon is not.
Oh
in the
no,
top
absolutely
five
not
of
at
Bears
all.
quarterbacks.
No way. I mean, I know as we're talking earlier, guys like Eric Kramer.
Eric Kramer has the best.
A guy like
statistical season.
Jay Cutler, who is definitely, probably, arguably our most talented quarterback we ever had. But as I've always said in the shop and in other conversations, I feel like he lacked a little bit of heart.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Oh yeah, it was the NFC Championship game. He
Yeah.
was walking.
Yeah, he's pissed off.
If you could walk, you could play.
Absolutely.
In a game like that against the Packers,
And it's disappointing because they put some pretty decent talent, pretty good talent around him. So
that was terrible.
yeah, so I go with the good old Jim McMahon, Mad Dog.
All right, let's talk about famous Chicago people. In your opinion, who is the best singer, rapper, musician to come out of Chicago? And tell us who else was in the running when you made your decision.
Well, I mean, if you can go. Depends if you go back current, like current. If I first person that comes to my name, obviously a lot is Kanye West.
All right.
There's first, but then you got like Chicago,
Okay.
an Earth, Wind, and Fire, who've got classics. Those are guys who, I mean, Chicago's sold billions and billions of records. They're
It's a hard
iconic.
habit to break.
Exactly. So I mean, those are three names, three groups that come up. I would say often. Maybe young guys won't think Chicago, Earth,
Who's
Wind,
a
and
young
Fire.
guy that could even be considered?
Yeah, right.
Who would you say?
Oh, well, young fans, young
Lil
fans.
Uzi?
Nah, no young. I
Lil
mean,
Durk?
Kanye. It would be Kanye West, and that's it.
No, you gotta give me someone from the last 15 years.
15
Who's
years?
who's your best Chicago artist from the last 15 years?
I'm still gonna say Kanye West.
The new Kanye?
He's new or the old. I'll still take the
Crazy
new Kanye.
Kanye.
I'll still take the crazy Kanye over what
Slavery
the.
was a choice. Kanye.
Hey man, I still think I may go Kanye over some of these trap guys. I mean,
Who
else can I think of?
Polo G.
he's okay. I mean, I'll take a Lupe Fiasco over them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But
All right. So last question, we're all gonna weigh in on this one. Would be the big sports question. The Bears have the number 1 pick in the draft. Shrewd move by GM Poles. He parlayed number 1 from last year
yes,
into DJ Moore, and another number 1 and another 2 out of swap.
Okay.
So we just saw Justin Fields lose to the Packers, and didn't do anything in the fourth quarter. So should the Bears try to take that pick and add talent around Justin Fields and make Justin Fields our quarterback, or should we go to the college route with that first pick? What do you think, Omar?
I hate to say this, but I think he's going to get in a rhythm, and to start all over again, I say add talent around him. That's what I go. I like that route better. What do you think?
I mean, I'm the same thing. I would say give him his money. I mean, when you really look at him, and even put him up against the quarterbacks that are in the draft, or even the guys that are in the league now, I feel like his legs are one of the best legs that a quarterback has in the league. One, so he's a weapon from that standpoint. I say we keep him, but we take that number 1 pick and drop down a little bit like we did last year to get a few more assets, and I pair him up with his old teammate Marvin Harrison Jr.
I think you guys got a loser's mentality.
Let's hear this.
I gotta hear Joe's.
You don't know what it looks like to have a good quarterback.
Yeah,
This is true. This
You
is
know
true.
what I mean? And Justin Fields is not taking us to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Wow.
Justin Fields, to me, the comp I would say is like a Ryan Tannehill, who made some noise in the playoffs a couple years because he had a stud running back.
Yeah, well, he had
But
him
I
and he
don't-
had the wideout from the Eagles. He had both of them.
Yeah, AJ Brown.
Yeah.
I don't see him being a top 10 quarterback, and I say, you might have to take a small step back, but you can take a huge step forward in a couple years from now, and we will build. We still got a talented defense. So, all right. Any other thoughts on Justin Fields and the future of the Bears?
I actually might think I might have to reconsider doing a little more research on that.
I mean, I'm not against. I get what you're saying. You look at both perspectives. I mean, if you say you draft another quarterback, you get rid of him, and maybe you trade him to one of the guys that are in the upper echelon, and you get another draft pick this year.
Yeah.
And then you add him, another wideout. We still need an offensive line. We need a center badly.
Yeah.
There's no free agents when it comes to offensive linemen, so you have to draft somebody. And we still got money that was left over from last year. We still got money to spend. So it's like, spend the money wisely. But I'll in agreement. I mean, being a Bears fan my whole life, our coaching staff has never been the best at evaluating talent or utilizing their talent at the best. You know what I'm saying?
And then the Packers are the youngest team ever to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So that just shows you organizational that they're much better at being an organization than we have. This is something that Bob and I have talked. We say to ourselves, kind of like what happened with Wirtz when the old man Wirtz passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And it was handed down to his eldest son. Things changed.
Oh, he knew
They
it real quick.
They started winning championships.
Literally
right?
within a 3-year span.
The Bears are never going to do that because they got a cash cow on hand. They got the most loyal fan base on earth, and that's where our fault. We keep on supporting, we keep on supporting. The reality is that it doesn't give them the incentives to put quality on the field. They're bad at what they do. They need to sell the team, which won't happen. And until that happens, teams like Green Bay, teams like Kansas City.
Well, look at Detroit. Detroit dominated this year in our division.
Those teams will continue to surpass us because we're stuck in old ways, old ideas. People who and I don't know. I don't know what's
That's
the
also
fix?
why I believe that they're pushing to sell or move to Arlington Heights, because that adds to their selling. Because as we all know, I don't know if you guys know, but the Park District owns Soldier Field. So if they move them to Arlington Heights, it kind of ups the selling package. You'll get a because now you're not just gaining from the team, but you're gaining. Yes, that's the huge thing.
You can host a trove of things, especially.
And it sucks the park at the stadium now.
I love going to
it sucks.
Games, but you can't.
Oh, what are you talking about? It's like 20 minutes to walk, even in their parking lot.
It's not. It's whatever.
In Chicago, weather ain't nothing nice.
No, especially in the winter. So
no.
We went to the 13th coldest. Well, now it's the 13th coldest game. At the time, we went to the 7th coldest game against Atlanta Falcons.
Yes.
It was -7 degrees with a wind chill of 13 degrees. 13 to 15
Rex Grossman just came back.
Are you even trying to like drink beer in that?
Check this out. I bought a beer. We all bought a beer.
It
froze.
You had to drink hot cocoa.
You had to, and we learned something. If you're ever going to a game and it's below zero, take cardboard, because you put it on under your shoes.
Under your butt or under your shoes.
On your shoes,
because
otherwise it's like ice. You're standing on
the
ice.
concrete gives off such a cold.
Okay. We were watching people. Why do you have cardboard? And we realized that, man, my feet. That was like the only thing I didn't do right. I double socked, but my toes were still.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter.
It was like
that was
freezing.
the one thing.
Yeah. It
was we dressed fine from our ankles up.
Yeah.
And it just seems like those are the games that we can afford to bring our families. You know what I mean?
Yeah, our family's gonna hate us though.
I mean, like Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve was really cheap.
Did you go? You went to
it? Was cold. No, they moved the game to 3:00.
Yeah.
And in my family, we eat on Christmas Eve and go to church.
Okay. Yeah. Same.
And whatnot. So I couldn't do it. But those are the times. And then the next one, my son and his mom went. At the last minute, they got like $25 tickets.
Oh wow! Last minute.
They suck and it's cold.
Yeah, they're bad.
They suck and it's cold. All right, so we'll see what happens with the Bears and Justin Fields. You've been watching Chicago 50 SPF Sports, Politics, People, and Food with myself, Joey McDermott, and Omar Sanchez. And thank you to our guest, Bobby Favorito, a.k.a. Bobby Faulkner. Woo-hoo! There you go.